insert, delete, update operations from SAP Foiri app via Odata service. And this topic is common. Same code is applicable even for UI5 application as well. So from front-end UI5 or Foiri, there will be screens here, and we try to access Odata services here, which contains methods, and those methods ultimately triggers database operations. So in today's session, we are going to go with the front-end method as create front-end method. So this create front-end method triggers create entity method of Odata service. This is create entity method that is triggered, that is Odata service method. And this create entity Odata method will trigger insert statement, and it will insert the data. So create is a front-end method which automatically triggers create entity method of Odata service, and that will execute insert statement because we generally write insert statement inside this method. Similarly, there is update front-end method. Update front-end method executes update entity method of Odata service. And we implement update statement so that update statement gets executed here. Similarly, there is remove front-end method. There is remove front-end method. Remove front-end method automatically executes delete entity method of Odata service. And delete entity method of Odata service, we implement delete statement so that delete operation gets executed here. And in the coming days, we are going to use bind element method. That's a front-end method. Bind element method, front-end method executes get entity method of Odata service. This get entity method executes select query here. In this case, it will fetch single record. Bind element is the front-end method. It executes get entity method of Odata service. Get entity method will fetch single record with the help of select query. Similarly, we have used in older applications, we generally use bind rows method, the front-end method. In new applications in Foiri, we use items equal to entity set here. When you use table items equal to entity set or list items equal to entity set, in that situation, it executes get entity set method of Odata service. This get entity method of Odata service executes select query, and it can fetch a number of records. Items equal to entity set in your XML files. In that case, it executes get entity set method of Odata service. Thereby, it will execute select query to fetch a number of records here. So as of today, we'll try to focus on these first three methods here. Insert, delete, update operations. This fifth one we have done several times. This we have done it on table, list, items equal to entity set. We have configured this, but in that case, it is executing get entity set method. We are able to fetch a number of records and we are able to display a number of records. In the coming days, we'll try to use bind element also. Today, we'll try to use the first three methods. In the coming days, we'll use other methods. Create plus navigation property. In that case, we are going to trigger create deep entity method of Odata service. It executes insert statement, or you can also execute update statement. In this case, it deals with multiple records or n number of records here. Similarly, there is read plus /$value. In that case, we are going to execute get stream method. It will fetch file content. That means this is for file upload functionality. Sorry, this is for file download functionality. It will fetch file content from backend. So this is for file download functionality. And there is upload frontend method with /$value. It executes create stream method. Create stream method, you can use it for file upload functionality. So in the coming days, we are going to use the last three methods as well. Don't worry now. Let us focus on these options now. First three options as of today. But technically, all these methods are considered as CRUD queue methods. All the above methods are considered as CRUD queue methods. Shortcut. These CRUD queue methods are common for both UEFI and Foiri apps. And all these methods, the above methods are available as part of, they're available in Odata model class according to SAP UI5 framework. Odata model class contains most of the front-end methods. Odata model class front-end methods will trigger Odata service backend service methods. Hello students, can you hear me? Can you see my screen?
Yeah, we can see it.
Yeah, yes, Vijay.
Okay. So here, all the above methods are considered as CRUD queue methods. And the behavior of these methods are same for both UEFI applications and Foiri applications. There won't be any change in the coding. The behavior, the coding syntax is almost same for both UEFI and Foiri apps, especially for these methods. And all these, most of the front-end methods, if you consider the front-end side methods, they are available in Odata model class. Odata model class is part of UI5 framework. So here you can see, let me go to the documentation. SAP UI5.hana.ondemand.com. Let me go to that. It's not opening. Okay, that site is not opening now. We'll try that later. So here, in our case, for dealing with database operations, we are using Odata service name. This is our main service in our application, that is Z8AM Odata project SRV. And Odata fields I've already provided, but let me provide again. These are case sensitive fields. And Odata entity set, we were using EMP set. And in this case, if you want to check the record is inserted or not, updated or not, deleted or not, if you want to check it manually, then you can open database table. Database table used in this service is ZEMPDB table. ZEMPDB table is a database table used in Odata service for dealing with all these database operations. If you want to verify manually, you can verify by opening this table. And please remember, in this Odata service, all database operations are implemented. So there won't be any problem when you write the front-end code. All database operations are implemented in this particular service. So you can utilize this service at this point of time and you can build your front-end application. This is a backend service. Backend service is ready with all database operations. So by using that service, you can develop your front-end application. So here, let me check whether backend server is connecting or not. Okay, this is also, there is a problem. It's not connecting to server. Okay. We'll proceed with this procedure, step-by-step procedure. You can test it tomorrow if server is not available. So step one is you can open code view.xml file and make sure that input fields contains ID property. So in the last session, I think we have created third view, and in third view, there is a simple form here. Simple form contains all input fields, and you can see it contains ID also. You need not provide again. At the time of creating the simple form in third view, all these input fields are already provided with ID property. So this is basically step one. So there is third view.xml file. It contains a simple form, and simple form contains labels and screen elements. That means labels and input fields. And each input field here, it contains ID property. That is basically step one. So we can utilize this form and these input fields to demonstrate insert, delete, update operations. So third view with simple form. And input fields with ID property. So that is must according to step one. Right. So simple form is available and it contains input fields with ID property. Now step two is I want to create three buttons: insert data, update data, delete data. So here there is a form. After this form, I want to create three buttons like insert, delete, update buttons. And for each button, there is a press event. For that, I want to assign three different event handlers for three buttons. So let me add labels here. Okay, so here I can use one label, text, dummy label, but here I can use three buttons. You can use it after all input fields, or you can use it after the entire form. It's up to you, but let me create button here. The buttons, let me use, for example, 170 pixel. Type of the button, and then press is an event. For that, we are going to assign event hand. So three buttons we are planning to create. First button, for example, insert data. Second button, update data. Third button is delete data. Type of the button, let me change it to emphasized for update data button. And let me use red color button for delete data, that is type equal to reject. Similarly, here you can see press is an event. Let me assign event handlers. For example, first button, insert data EH. Second button, update data EH. Third button, like delete data EH. But please remember, in today's session, we are dealing with single record. Inserting, updating, deleting, it deals with single record in this today's session. In the coming days, we are going to deal with multiple records. So 3 buttons are created here. So open code view.xml file, add 3 buttons. Add 3 buttons and assign event handler to each button press event. So that means this is a code we have implemented here. So 3 buttons with 3 different event handlers and with width, common width we have used, and with 3 different button text. So this is step 2. Now step 3 is an open third view controller.js file. Open third view.controller.js file and implement the event handlers. That is, you can implement below code. The event handlers, it will use the same strategy, but the front-end methods will slightly change. Step 4, you can save all the files, view file, controller file, and run the app. And for data verification, you will get messages in the front end, whether record is inserted or not, deleted or not, updated or not. You can display front end messages. But if you want to verify manually, then you can open backend server, open SE11T code, then open database table, ZEMPDB table, and check the contents. Check whether record is inserted or updated or deleted or not. That you can verify manually. In case if there is any confusion with the front-end messages, then you can verify it manually in the backend in this table. Okay, so let us focus on event handlers here. But before implementing event handlers, let me go to this documentation screen once again. Let me check whether it is open now. Okay, so here you can see this is a documentation link. In this, if I go to API reference, you will find something like sap.ui.model. In API reference, you can search with this SAP UI model.odata. Inside that, OData is a model class. So here you can see SAP UI model.odata.odata model. So that's one of the class here. So here you can see in this particular class, there are some methods. OData model is a class. SAP UI model.odata is a library. SAP UI model.odata is a library. OData model is a class. In this class, there are some methods. So SAP has provided some methods, like for example, here you can see create is a front-end method. Create is a front-end method. It triggers post request. That means it is for inserting the data. So SAP UI model.odata. In that, OData model is a class. And this is a library name. It contains library contains class contains methods. So in this case, create is a front-end method, the standard method. So the purpose of this method is to trigger backend OData service method. Create front-end method automatically triggers create entity method of OData service. That's how the framework is designed. As part of UI5 framework, all these things are designed. So UI5 framework provides various classes, libraries, various methods. So in this case, create front-end method triggers create entity method of OData service. And it executes insert statement, because we basically write insert statement in that backend OData service method. So create front-end method. Now, not only that, there are other methods. At right time, we'll be using all the important methods. But as of today, you can see there is a refresh method also. You can refresh the model after update or insert operations. After update, insert or delete operations, you can refresh the model to refresh the data in the front end. But now, as of today, let us focus on this remove front end method here. Remove front end method triggers delete request to the OData service. So in simple words, so this is remove front end method. Remove front end method triggers delete entity method of OData service. Okay, let me write it here. Triggers delete entity method of OData service according to UI5 framework. And it executes, ultimately it executes delete statement, because we write delete statement inside this method. When we start OData development, we'll be writing these operations manually in the OData service level. But as of today, we are focusing on front end by using existing service. So remove is a front end method. Remove front end method triggers delete entity method of OData service, thereby it executes delete statement. And this remove front end method is also part of OData model class from this library. This is a library name. This is a class name. So this is like remove front end method. Similarly, there is one more method that is like update. You can see here. Update front-end method. It is to trigger put request to the Odata service. Put request means updating the data. The same library name SAP UI model.odata. In that, Odata model is a class and it contains update front-end method. This update front-end method automatically triggers update entity method of Odata service. Triggers update entity method of Odata service. Hereby, it executes update statement because we implement update statement inside update entity method of Odata service. So that statement gets executed here. This is update front-end method. Now, in the coming days, we are going to use other methods like you can see there is other methods like refresh and there is a read method also. We are going to use it in the coming days, read method. And similarly, there is one more method like again we are going to use create method once again. For multiple records also we are going to use same create front-end method with slightly different syntax while writing the code. But the front-end method remains same even for inserting multiple records. And then there is call function method. Call function method, we are going to use it in order to execute Odata service function import concept. There is a concept like function import. To execute function import, execute action method, we are going to use call function front-end method. So some more methods we are going to use it like this, but here, according to SAP documentation, it says that Odata model is deprecated in this library. If you go to this one, Odata model, it says deprecated. So, but what is the alternate? The alternative is Odata model class, but you should use it from a different library. SAP UI model.odata.v2.odata model. In the latest versions, Odata model class is still intact. There is no problem. But instead of using SAP UI model.odata library, you have to use SAP UI.model.odata.v2 library. So that's the alternative. But the methods are same. Methods, behavior, all those things remain same. SAP UI model.odata library is deprecated. The alternative is SAP UI model.odata.v2 that should be used. But the class remains same, methods remain same. Whether it is Odata model in old library or Odata model class in new library, but that class name, method names remain same. Maybe there are some more new methods in new library, but whatever methods that are part of Odata model class in old library, the same methods are also available in V2 library in Odata model class. The behavior also remains same. Okay, so let me write that note now itself. Odata model class belongs to SAP UI model.odata library. This is old library. The recommended is SAP UI.model.odata.v2. It's a new library. OData model class is same, methods also remain same. Whatever methods we are going to use, it will be available in both the libraries. Doesn't matter. OData model class is available in these two libraries. So in older applications, you can use this old library. In new applications, you can use V2 related library. But the class name is same, the front-end methods remain same, behavior remains same. It doesn't matter. Developer point of it is same. Okay, so let us focus on this implementation. Third view controller, implement 3 event handlers. Insert data EH, update data EH and delete data EH. So let me go to controller here. Third view controller. In third view controller, let me add event handlers. Insert data EH by using function statement. Similarly, use comma separator, implement next event handler, update data EH. You can use function statement. And you can see delete data EH, third event handler. Function statement to implement event handler. These are front-end side event handlers. So in simple words, let me just highlight here. From insert data EH event handler, we are going to use OData model create front-end method to execute or to trigger create entity method of OData service. And it internally executes insert statement. Very simple. From insert data EH event handler, ultimately we are going to call OData model class create front-end method to trigger create entity method of OData service, thereby it executes insert statement. Similarly, in update data EH event handler, we are going to use OData model. From that, you can call update front-end method. This is to trigger update entity method of OData service. That's a backend service. And thereby it executes update statement here. Thereby it executes update statement. Similarly, there is a delete data EH event handler. From this, we are going to use OData model object dot, we can use remove front-end method. So remove front-end method, this is to trigger delete entity method of OData service. OData service means it's backend service. Thereby it executes a delete statement here. OData model remove front-end method, it triggers delete entity method of OData service, thereby it executes delete statement. So like that, in the coming days, we are going to implement some more event handlers. We are going to call some more front-end methods, which executes the respective backend methods. So in different sessions, we'll use different methods. Okay, so this is the overall approach we are going to follow for today's session. So insert data EH event handler, update data EH event handler, delete data EH event handler. All these things we're trying to implement in third view controller.js file. Ultimately to perform this activity. That's our main intention. Today's sessions, what's the purpose of event handlers? So that is described here. Now let us focus line by line. Now let us focus on insert data EH event handler. To insert record, first you need to capture the record. Capture new record values from simple form input fields. What to do is capture new record values from simple form input fields. That is basically step one inside this event handler. So how to do that? You can use this dot get view dot by ID. Provide the ID of each input field. So here you can see the ID of first input field, that is my user ID. Provide that, and ultimately you will get input field reference. On input field there is a value property, so you can use get value method. You are already aware of this. So get value method in this case ultimately will capture user ID value. So similarly capture all the other record values from simple form input fields. So you can use the same syntax here. This dot get view dot by ID. Provide the ID of next input field, that is my f name, that is for first name. On that you can use get value method. So in this case you can expect first name value here. So like that you can capture other values of that new record with the same syntax. So here let me use ID of last name field, my L name, ID of email ID as my email ID. ID for country field is my country, then my salary, then my phone number, something like that. So here capture all the new record values from simple form input fields of third view. We are writing the code in third view controller, so it will access the values of simple form input fields from third view itself. This code is implemented in third view controller, so you are going to get the new record values from simple form input fields of third view. But if you want to send these values, I want to send these values to the backend system via Odata service. Instead of holding the values in individual variables, I want to send these values to the backend system via Odata service as a complete record. Backend service will expect the values as part of a complete record. That's the reason why you need to hold those values. Hold new record values in an object. In our case, we are using data object here. Hold new record values in some object. For example, in our case, let us use data object. So you can use var keyword data object. You can declare empty data object like this with empty flower brackets. So it is an empty object initially. So hold all the values inside data object dynamically here. Hold all the values in data object here. But data object should have the fields same as your backend service. Data object should have the same fields as your backend OData service for transferring those values. User ID, first name, last name, email ID, country, salary, phone. These are backend OData service fields. The same fields you should maintain inside a data object to hold the values which are captured from the simple form. The field names must match with the backend fields. So that's the reason why I can use data object dot user ID, data object dot first name, data object dot last name, then email ID. Use data object dot country, data object dot salary, and data object dot phone. So these are the OData fields. The same OData field names should be used inside data object because I want to use data object to send complete record to the backend system via OData service. Whatever values you are holding in data object, those values should be referred with the OData field names. Whatever fields that are part of OData, the same field names you try to use it in data object to hold that complete record values. Now you can pass data object to the backend system by OData service. Data object at this stage contains complete record. After executing these lines, data object holds complete record. And that data object you can pass it to OData service. So here, the next step. In our case, we are using data object. What is step one is very simple. Capture new record values from simple form and hold new record values in data object. Capture new record values from simple form, hold new record values in data object. So that is what we have done in these lines. The field names used in data object must match with your OData fields. Otherwise, it will not work. Otherwise, the data is not carried from front end to back end. You can't transfer data from front end to back end if the field names are not matching. Now, the next step is you can access or you can get a reference of OData service. In our case, if you want to get the reference of your main service, our OData service, the first service, that's a main service. You need to get the reference of OData service, that's a main service. So that is available in manifest.json file. Manifest.json file contains main service pointing to Z8AM CRUD OData project SRV. I want to execute database operations through this particular service, Z8AM CRUD OData project SRV, and it is a main service in our application. So there are two ways of doing it. Directly, you can get the reference of OData service. That's a main service. How to get the reference of that? You can use this dot, get owner component, dot get owner component dot get model. So in this case, you will get OData model because OData service, when you try to access OData main service, this dot get owner component dot get model returns OData model. This dot get owner component dot get model will points to OData main service. So you will get OData model of that main service. So this is one of the technique. You can use this technique. or you can directly consume the service here itself. So you can use now Odata model dot, you can use create method, or you can use Odata model dot update method. You can use Odata model dot something like remove method, Odata model dot read method, something like that. In the coming days, we are going to use other methods as well. So you can access the reference of Odata main service of your application by using this dot get owner component dot get model. So ultimately, you will get reference of this main service. That's our Z8AM CRUD Odata project SRV. After getting that Odata model, Odata service reference, you can call Odata model dot create, update, remove, read, etc. Or Odata model dot, we can use call function, also one of the front end method. You can call different methods on Odata model class here. Whether it is new library or old library, it doesn't matter, that approach remains same. The methods are same, syntax remains same. Or else, what you can do is, you can also try like this. Instead of getting the reference of that Odata model, you can create Odata model object or Odata service. You can directly create Odata model object for Odata service. So how to do that? You can use where Odata model object new SAP UI model dot Odata. Inside that, Odata model is a class. For that, you need to provide service URL. Very simple. So we are trying to create Odata model object by using Odata model class. Odata model class belongs to SAP UI model dot Odata library. Now you can provide that main service URL here. This is a second way of doing it. Ultimately, we can execute the same functionality. The service URL you can provide here: SAP, OPU, Odata, SAP, and service name. You can provide that here. SAP, OPU, Odata, SAP, and service name. Now, what you can do? You can use Odata model object dot, you can call create frontend method, or Odata model object dot update frontend method, or you can call remove frontend method, or you can access call function frontend method. You can use Odata model object dot refresh method. Different methods like that you can access here. So in our case, let me start with create frontend method here. Odata model object dot, let us use create frontend method. When you are accessing create method, there are different parameters you need to take care of. Create frontend method, you need to first configure entity set here. Based on which entity set you want to trigger database functionality. So that entity set you need to pass it here. Based on which entity set you want to trigger database functionality. So that entity set you need to pass. And you need to pass your record, new record values here. You need to pass new record from front end to the back end. But our new record is part of data object here. Our new record is kept in data object. Data object is holding that record, so you can pass it here. And then if you want to ignore other parameters, you can use null. We can ignore other parameters. But there are two things that you need to take care. One is success callback function. Another is failure callback function. You can use O response. That's not mandatory, but you can use it. The two functions that can be triggered within this. One is success callback function, another is failure callback function. If the backend operation is success, then first function gets executed. If the backend operation is failed, the second function is executed. That's a behavior. When you pass new record through data object from frontend to backend, the backend will execute the functionality. If the backend execution is success, the first callback function is triggered. If the backend execution is failed, the second callback function is triggered. So first function is basically a success callback function. So I can print a success message here. Just as an example. The second function is failure callback function. So you can print error message in case if the backend execution is failed. Or you can use a refresh model method and all the other things as well. But here, let me use SAP dot m dot message box dot, let me use success method. For example, record inserted successfully. Record inserted successfully. Here I can print error message record not inserted by using something like error method. Record not inserted, there may be several reasons. To make it simple, let me make it record not inserted. Now here, what is our entity set? Entity set is our EMP set through which I want to trigger database functionality. So let us configure entity set here for create frontend method. And our new record values are maintained as part of data object here. Data object contains complete record after executing these 7 lines. So from frontend, you can pass the data to the backend by using data object in this case. Let's provide that. So calling create frontend method, configuring entity set, passing data object, which contains new record, that is important here. If the backend operation is success, first function is executed in the front end. If backend operation is failed, second function is executed in the front end. That's a default behavior. So that's how you can complete this insert data EH event handler. Okay, so let me, I think tomorrow we can test these functionalities. I think server is not up and running. Server is down. So we can test this in tomorrow's session. Let me go to the next event handler. In the next event handler also, we have to do the same thing. You can use the same lines. In update data EH event handler. Same code I'm using here. But in this case, instead of using create frontend method, you have to use update frontend method. Instead of using create frontend method, use update frontend method. And you need to configure entity set. The backend entity set is EMP set. And you need to pass data object. Data object will pass updated record values in this case. Data object will pass updated record values in this case. Update method, we are passing data object once again, but in this case, it will pass updated record values. If the backend operation is success, you can make it like record updated successfully or record not updated here. But when you want to update a record, you need to pass the key field explicitly. Based on which key field you want to update record values, that key field has to be provided. Key field is not updated, but based on key field, the other values are updated in the backend. So if you want to pass key field, you have to pass that key field value here. Like user ID equal to, for example, if you want to provide a static value, you can pass, for example, 1001. So it will it will update 1001 related record values. If you pass, for example, 1009, so 1009 record related values will be updated. But I don't want to make it static. I want to make it dynamic. 1001, 1002, 1009, you can't provide through coding with a hard coded employee user ID. You have to make it dynamic. That's the reason why you have to use plus operator here. And in between these two plus operators, you can make a dynamic value. That is, we have to pass user ID. That's a backend key field. So you have to pass user ID. That means you can use data object dot, you can pass user ID. So we are using update frontend method. We are configuring entity set. We are passing key field based on which the record has to be updated. The updated record values are passed to backend through data object. So this is a syntax you need to use. Data object contains updated record values. We are going to update the record based on the key field, that is data object dot user ID. And entity set is EMP set. The frontend method is update. If the backend operation is success, first function is executed in the frontend. The backend operation is failed, second function is executed in the frontend. These are callback functions. First one is a success callback function. Second one is a failure callback function. Similarly, let us try the same syntax. This syntax you can try in delete data event handler. So, but when you want to delete the record, you need not capture first name, last name, email ID, country, salary, phone, all these things you need not capture. Just capture only user ID. That is enough. And pass that user ID to the backend. So I need not worry about all these values. I just want to capture user ID. So here you can use, instead of update frontend method, you have to use remove frontend method. Remove frontend method. Configure entity set. Configure entity set and just pass key field. You need not pass once again data object. You need not pass entire record. Just you need to pass data object dot user ID, which is a key field. Based on that key field, the record gets deleted in the backend. You need not pass once again data object here. It's not required because we are not passing complete record. This is not necessary. Just provide key field, that is data object dot user ID, and that will be dynamic. Actual syntax is like this. For example, 1001, if you want to delete, you have to pass it like this. If I want to delete 1008, you have to pass it like this. But you can't hard code the values. That's the reason why you have to put everything in double quotes here and use plus operator. In between plus operator, pass a dynamic user ID. That's a key field. That is data object dot user ID. So that's how you can try. So remove is a front-end method. It triggers delete entity method of Odata service. We are passing key field to delete that record. So if the operation is success in the backend, the first success callback function is executed and you can say record deleted successfully. If the backend operation is failed, then the second callback function is triggered. You can say record not deleted. Something like that. Record not deleted, contact administrator or whatever, something like that. You can provide some message. So these are callback functions. First one is success callback function. Second one is error callback function according to the syntax. So here you can see, if I go back to that documentation once again, this library, SAP UI model.odata model class. So here, the old library, but whatever it may be, here you can see there are some methods like create. So when you use create front-end method, it is expecting these things. So we are trying to call create front-end method. So create front-end method, you can pass your entity set. You can pass the front-end data object so that the data will reach backend. And here, if you don't want to use other parameters, you can use null. But there are two functions here. Function 1, function 2. First function is success callback function. It's a callback function. The second function is error callback function. That's failure callback function. But that's a callback function. So first callback function is triggered when the data is okay. The first callback function is triggered when the backend is successful. The second callback function is triggered when the backend is failed. And there are other options which we don't use, but these are the important options. Success callback function, error callback function. Let me just highlight here. I've selected create front-end method. So for that, you can see this. So what we are trying to do is here, SPath is nothing but like our entity set Odata service. Object data. Object data is nothing but data object here, which we are passing from front end to the back end for new record or updating the existing record or inserting new record. For that, you have to pass data object. And here we are not using other parameters, so you can make it null. And this is success callback function. The failure callback function. Execution of these functions is decided based on the backend functionality. So according to this, we are passing those things here in our coding. SPath is entity set, create is a front-end method, SPath is entity set, Odata is object data. It's not Odata, it's object data. That's nothing but data object we are passing. And there are other options we are making null. And this is a first function, that is success callback function. The second function is failure callback function. Okay, so let me take this screenshot. Create front-end method. Like that, update front-end method, remove front-end method also contains the same options, more or less. Right, so let me give the description for this first method so that you can visualize other methods. Let me focus on this particular code. Let me just check once again whether backend is connecting or not. Okay, it's not connecting. Tomorrow we can test it. But before that, let me just give this description, step-by-step description. So for example, if you are using insert data event handler, so what we're trying to do is first 8 lines. This is ultimately capturing record values from simple form input fields, and we are holding the values inside data object. We are capturing values from simple form input fields. That means new record values from input form simple fields, and then we are trying to hold it inside data object here. That is basically step 1. Capture new record values from simple form input fields, hold the values inside data object. Because data object has to be passed to the backend with complete record. That record gets inserted. So this is like capture new record values from simple form input fields. You can also create individual input fields, it doesn't matter. But we have created input fields inside simple form. And not only that, we are trying to hold new record values inside an object. That is, in our case, we have decided to use data object here. The object name can be anything, but in our case, we have decided to use the name of the object as data object. And then we are trying to connect to Odata service. For connecting to Odata service, there are two techniques. You can connect to you can get the reference of the existing main service directly, or you can consume the service once again. It's up to you. I've given both the syntaxes, but here we create Odata model. So to create Odata model for Odata model class and access Odata service. The purpose of Odata model is to access Odata service. Don't forget that. So create Odata model for Odata model class and access Odata service. Now in interviews, they will ask you, can we create JSON model to connect Odata service? That is totally meaningless. JSON model is not going to connect to Odata service. JSON model purpose is different. So the question itself is illogical. I mean to say, you cannot use JSON model to connect to Odata service. We have to use Odata model with Odata model class to connect to Odata service. The purpose of Odata model is to connect to Odata service. And you can trigger backend database operations. Here you can't use resource model, you can't use JSON model. Every model has its own purpose. You can't have one model as a replacement for another model. So Odata model is always used to connect to Odata service, not JSON model. Okay, after that, what we're trying to do here is, let me just bring it down. So this is technically okay. So what we're trying to do here is we are trying to access that Odata model. While accessing Odata model, we are calling create frontend method. We are calling create frontend method. We are configuring entity set and we are passing our new record values through data object. And if the operation is success, the first callback function is executed. If the operation is failed, second callback function is executed. So here, create is a front-end method. Create, it's a front-end method. And here we are configuring entity sets. And we're passing our new record values, in this case, to data object. So front-end method is create, emp set is entity set, and data object holds new record. That we are passing from front-end to back-end. That's a strategy you can follow. This is applicable for single record, but how to deal with multiple records? So that story is pending, we'll be discussing later. But here, what we are trying to do is create front-end method. Create front-end method triggers create entity method of Odata service. That is backend service. create front-end method triggers create entity method of Odata service. Don't forget that. And create front-end, create entity method. Create entity method executes insert statement. Don't forget this. I think this is the fourth time I'm highlighting this. But while doing this, what you need to do? You need to configure. You have to call front-end method, configure entity set, and pass new record values. So we are trying to call front-end method, configuring entity set, passing new record. So create is a front-end method, triggers create entity method of Odata service, create entity method executes insert statement. So there are two possibilities. Backend operation may be success, backend operation may fail. So if the backend operation is success, then front-end side success callback function is executed automatically. If backend operation is success, front-end side success callback function is executed automatically. Now the second possibility is if backend operation is failed due to some reason, the reason can be anything. So due to some reason, if it is failed in the backend, then front-end side failure callback function is executed automatically. The backend operation is failed, front-end side failure callback function is executed automatically. So the same type of behavior is applicable. Instead of using create, you can use update or you can use remove. The overall approach remains same, more or less. I've given the description for create, but instead of using create, you can use update, you can use remove method. As per today's session, this description is more or less same. But the front-end method may be different. In insert data EH event handler, we are using create front-end method. In update data EH event handler, we are using update front-end method. In delete data EH event handler, we are using remove front-end method. So three different event handlers, we are using three different front-end methods of Odata model class. So this should be on your fingertips. When you want to develop end-to-end applications, these operations are very common. So let me save this. Okay, let me try once again. If it is not connecting, then we'll do it in tomorrow's session. Okay, it's not connecting. So tomorrow we'll try to proceed further. After testing, I'll paste those event handlers code. Then we can proceed further in tomorrow's session. If you have any doubts, tomorrow I'll clarify. No need to worry after testing this scenario.